Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me here today. My name is Nora Shrum, and I'll be chatting with you about optimizing productivity for client success as part of the Stanford WebCamp 2026 Project Management Business Track here. As you may know, I have over 2 decades of experience in tech with a bachelor's in networking technology, actually, is how I started out, moving into a master's in innovation and entrepreneurship. Needless to say, I do consider myself a language and platform agnostic, though I love the Drupal community, and that's why I keep on contributing here. I would say that I'm also an analytics geek to some extent, and we'll chat through some solutions that I've come up with that may be helpful to you as well. But today, in general, I help organizations implement strategic initiatives and improve processes. As a servant leader, I appreciate speaking opportunities like this as part of my path in continuous learning through mentorship and facilitation. We will have several different points in this presentation where we'll be asking folks to chime in with some questions, just so you know. But I will trigger when that comes up. So as far as what we'll cover, we're going to be diving into what productivity really looks like for client-facing teams. Expect things like tools, tactics, and hands-on reflection that you can use to walk away with real next steps. So just to dive in here a little bit, what is productivity? I think a lot of folks will think of productivity as not about doing more necessarily, faster even. It's about doing the right things with clarity and intention so we serve our clients better. Also, I think it's good to take a look at the common pitfalls for a moment. So let's be honest. There's often issues with intake chaos, unclear handoffs, and poor follow-throughs that can easily kill momentum and client trust. And really, you want to think about some systems that may help to support you in that regard. Really, it's kind of a goal, I think, of any project manager to simplify, standardize, and streamline in general to reduce friction and to use things like templates, intake forms, to centralize updates. In general, your future self will definitely thank you. Here's an example of a scheduling kickoff workshop email that you might send to your clients that you're bringing on here for the first time. You might ask some, particular questions like, does anybody on your team require accommodations? Or, generally, let's schedule that kickoff. But these are sorts of things that you can template. So I do want to open it up here at this point and just ask around the room, what kinds of templates do you find that to be useful? And I'll go back a slide here just to focus on that. Maybe templates or something that helps you to organize, in maybe even specifically to the beginning of a project where you're handing off from sales to project management. Who all might have maybe even if you're not comfortable speaking, feel free to type in the chat and I will reiterate here. But anyone have any types of templates or systems that they like to use in their day-to-day? That's okay if you don't have an answer. Oh, there's one in the chat. It says, first touch, schedule a meeting with me, etc. Yes, yes. Those are very good first steps to do to schedule a meeting. I think keeping it casual to some extent is really helpful to move to keep the momentum as well. Anyone have anything else? There's also in the chat templates for engagement on new projects and statements of work. I have seen a lot of folks use questionnaires. Though sometimes you can get caught, I think, in not knowing what questions to ask to some extent. So, only if that sort of system might be valuable, of course. But yes, any sort of templates to help, to ask those initial questions and or form that SOW that you're creating. So thank you for sharing. So I will just call this out. I know that this is a hot topic these days, but definitely, AI can't lead your team, but it can be your assistant. In general, I would maybe expand on this a little bit to share with you how I use AI. Like most, my journey with AI started over 2 years ago with ChatGPT, and I continue to leverage ChatGPT for a lot of analysis, helping me to fill out forms. Just to share a little bit more about myself, I suffer from decision paralysis. I'm one of those folks that gets on Amazon, fills up the cart, uh, and then goes back and moves stuff into lists and says due later or whatever else, and it's really hard for me to hit that purchase button. So honestly, I use ChatGPT to help me make decisions, do analysis, and make good decisions sometimes, at least to think through the process. But for project management, I would say that I actually today use mostly Gemini to record and take meeting notes. And I'll do things like link them in my manual notes. So I'll still have manual notes, but it allows those manual notes to be focused more on the agenda, the stand up, the timeline, the budget, the action items. And then I'll move those recordings and notes to a shared folder with my client after the call. And, like I said, link into those meeting notes and use it potentially as a target. Let's say that shared folder with the meeting notes as a target for analysis at a later time. I've used Gemini specifically to say, go to that folder. And then I type in, when and how did we talk about this particular topic? Let's say that there was a bug that was mentioned a few times, but I don't remember how long ago it was. And that might provide some context for the team. So I'll literally use Gemini to search through recorded notes to help me form, some conversation around that. And it can help to some degree to remind folks like what did they work on when. Though I think that it's not as robust in to that degree. But it does help to leave those meetings, sort of open and more conversational instead of as a project manager typing at the same time as I am speaking. So it allows it to be more natural in that way. More recently, I have started to experiment with Claude, just the web-based Claude, as one of my agency clients prefers to use it. Though I'm still exploring it, I'll be honest. Specifically, I'm interested in the integrations that are provided with Claude to see how far I can take that. I could imagine a world where it may be really useful if, let's say, I have it hooked up to Jira as well as Gmail, and it's potentially going to help me like craft a message around some particular milestone that might be happening. But I haven't really honestly dove in as much as maybe I wanted to, and I have the opportunity here just in the past month to start playing around with it. Anyone else have any AI sort of things that they'd like to share that have worked well for them as far as leveraging AI to help make your day-to-day note-taking or tasks and project management easier? And again, feel free to chime in over voice, or if you'd like to put something in chat as well. But that's
Well,
generally how I use AI now. Go ahead.
I'm giving a talk on it later in
Oh, wonderful.
the show here, but my talk actually isn't addressing your question.
Mhm,
I actually use it very specifically for personal management in that I have my projects generate their own like technical notes, but
mhm,
I have a Claude project that I use as my executive assistant, who knows how to look into those notes and boil it up
Mhm.
into what I was actually doing, and keeps me on track. Helps me record what I did. And I wake up in the morning and I'll ask the executive assistant, like, so what am I doing today? And you know, it gives me a good enough answer that it's better than nothing, right?
Right. And have you played with those integrations that I was talking about yet? I haven't quite yet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard to keep track because there's a lot of them.
Hmm. But you have used some and they've worked as expected, I'd imagine.
Not always
To
as
some degree,
expected, but
right?
you can't believe the bullet points. You always have to like
Sure.
say this might work, and then you do it, and then you know keep a list of what actually worked.
Right, right. That makes sense. Yeah, you have to constantly like coach it. I mean, that's why we're thinking of it as an assistant, right? Versus an actual colleague, I guess, level.
Yeah, like
So,
a
yeah,
like a young, brilliant assistant from another country. Like you have to explain lots of things, but it
right.
gives good insights.
Good, good. Well, thank you for sharing. Anyone else have any insights into how they use AI? All righty. Well, thank you for sharing that. Generally speaking, though, I think we would all agree that it's good to automate the small stuff. So whether that's getting your list together, as Luke had shared, of what you're doing in that day, or if it's generating an email or something like that. As a general rule, if you repeat that thing more than twice a week, it's probably a candidate for automation. Things like your hands off reminders, scheduling, you know, use tools that are available. I heavily leverage booking links, and I used to use Calendly exclusively for booking, and now Google has its own booking system, which works pretty well. It doesn't do everything, but it does most of what I need. And so yeah, just something simple like a booking link can really make your life easier. The going back and forth, I think particularly like that's the most un- undesirable thing for me to do in a week, is to go back and forth on an email of what times are you available, and to share what times we're available. Yeah, anything that you can kind of repeat more than twice a week, it's really a very good idea to consider automation for that item. Another example might be, let's say you have a team that needs to do security updates on a weekly or monthly basis. There's actually some really cool things I've been seeing my teams use Claude for, specifically to say, are there any security Drupal updates today? Let's post into the Slack channel if it is or isn't happening this week on a Wednesday. And I've asked them to explore, like, what would it take to go ahead and create Jira tickets when, for those projects where you need to have work done with the security updates. So yeah, there's some really cool sort of automations that you can put in place. But even if it's, let's say, a monthly accessibility check in Jira, for instance, you can just set an automation for a particular project to create a ticket like on a schedule. So, any other schedule type automations? Maybe that's more the question here. Did anybody have any other ideas to share in that to that degree? I've mentioned a couple of them that I use anyway. But in general, I would say that, little workflows, can become like big wins over time. So just consider that as you're going through your day to days. I would say that why, I want to circle back to why this all matters to your clients. And really, simply put, that clients can feel your internal chaos. The more aligned and efficient you are, the more trust and clarity and generally value that they get. So, even if one of these tools are just simply helping you orient yourself on what you're going to talk about agenda wise at the next meeting, or keep your team on task, it's really good to incorporate some of these activities into your daily work so that you can arrive at those conversations with your clients and think more strategically with them as a partner as well. I strongly sort of advise in the consulting space that agencies need to, and agency owners need to reposition themselves as strategic partners over just doing the same thing every month or every year that they're used to doing in the past. Most folks, as in organizations or clients, are looking for strategic partners to help them expand their business, pivot, maybe because there's some sort of chaos happening that they are in or not, and maybe potentially not in control of at their organization. And doing these systematic things will help to open up those conversations. So I would say that this is kind of the meat and potatoes of the session here today, is to really kind of focus on how one of these ceremonies in an agile world can help to move the needle forward for your clients as well. So some folks will do these retrospectives, or in general will do retrospectives with their clients, but I'm more focused, honestly, in my day-to-day doing retrospectives with the internal team. It can be good to include, like I said, clients in a retrospective at some milestone in a project, but it honestly will be more beneficial to you to do this on a more regular basis with your internal teams. So I'd like for everyone to go ahead and follow this link, and I'll post it in the chat as well, to a Miro board where we're going to go through a retrospective about my session here today. So we'll actually see some things from the previous one. I did this session last at Drupal Camp Colorado last year, and I'm doing it again here with all of you here today. So if you wouldn't mind following through to that Miro board, and I will go ahead and share my screen with the Miro board here in a second to go over those items. So let me just kind of focus over there and see if everyone has arrived. We do see several folks that are in there already. And so I'll just leave it open here just to make sure everyone arrives with the link on the screen and or in the chat. And once I see a couple more folks going onto that Miro board, I'll go ahead and share that Miro board screen and explain how to use it. All righty. Looks like we have most everybody there now. So let me go ahead and change the sharing of my screen. And it will be this one. Okay. All righty. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but I will go over this is the 4 L's method: the liked, learned, lacked, and longed for. In each section, just go ahead and click into the cards here. But more or less what I'm looking for is in this liked section, what did you like about the session? And then in the learn section, what did you learn that you want to remember or apply for your own work in your day-to-day? And then we have the lacked section, the orange cards here. What did you feel was lacking or confusing about my session today? Also on the last card, the purple cards, is what did you wish we had covered or spent more time on? So I'll go ahead and start the timer, and I'll put it at 10 minutes. I think that should be sufficient for us here today. If I can find the timer again, one moment. Oh, here it is, timer. And I will go ahead and pick some nice music for us here. Might as well go with a up-tempo funk here today, guys. And I'm not sure if you hear it on your side, but you might. I will mute it on my side just so that we don't have feedback. But yes, please go ahead and enter in all the lovely cards here for me today. If you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat or come on to the speaker and I'll be happy to help. And just so you know, you can double click directly on the card and it will be able to type right inside the card. And perhaps we don't actually need the full 10 minutes. It looks like that there's less activity here, but I will leave it open for a few more minutes just to make sure everybody gets their ideas in. Alrighty. If I could get thumbs up in the chat or just as a reaction, if you are done with your retro. Got one, and two, three. Alrighty. I think we're ready to go. I'll go ahead and stop the timer. All right, so let me go ahead and at this point, we're just going to go over each of the sections. I'm going to call out the liked, learned, lacked, and longed for. And if anyone has anything that they want to expand on, please feel free to chime in. In the liked section, we have integrating interaction with attendees. Anything to expand on that? Okay, and then similarly, we have interactive questions throughout the session to get the audience participating. Anything to add to that? Another one for questions and interaction. Anyone want to add to that? Oh, and we had a grouping here also for the up-tempo funk for sure. So we'll go ahead and group those together for the song that was selected. Thank you for that feedback. On the learn side, learn some ideas about AI wins. Also, in general, just working with Miro boards, seeing Miro boards more often, and it's a good way to interact with audience and get feedback. Anybody want to expand on either the AI wins or the Miro board usage? Awesome. Now for lacked, we do have one item. It's might be a little short before going into the retrospective activity. Anybody want to expand on that? Okay, that's fine. And longed for, we had, this was over in the lack before. I did move it over to longed for because it sounded maybe it was a little bit more of a missing item. Would love to get more templates since we only really shared the one example of an email. Alrighty, and it looks like someone also already added into the action items. I will reshare my screen here with my slide deck just to talk through that a little bit real quick. Okay. So this action item section is really about like what are those things that we can take forward, and no activity is valuable without those next steps. So let's dive into that. In general, based on everything that we've discussed in the 4Ls retrospective, let's get specific. What is something you can commit to personally after this session? What is one experiment we could try as a group based on what we longed for or lacked about this particular session? So yes, please go ahead and go back to the Miro board if you aren't already there. Please follow the link again in the chat. I will go ahead and reshare my screen to the Miro board. But if we could focus to trying to fill out a couple more action items, I do see one has been provided already so far. Just zoom in on that piece if we can. Oh, goodness. There we go. So more or less, this is the idea of giving some suggestions for how this session might be improved, something specific. or something that you can take away. I might as well go ahead and set a timer for a couple minutes just for this. Alrighty. You might take some inspiration from the retro items on the right if I'm not sure I said that on, on my microphone there for a minute. And when you're done with adding your action items, feel free to thumbs up in the Zoom here. All right, timer's up. We'll go ahead and just go over them. I'll go ahead and call them out and let's see if anybody wants to expand on them. We had action items called out. One is we'll look into small AI actions to help gain traction on daily processes. And similarly, we had another AI one, start using AI more effectively to achieve efficient results. Anyone want to expand on those items? All righty. No worries. All right, so let me go ahead and share my slide deck here again. Well, thank you for going through that exercise with me. I did want to close out here today to just chat for a minute about other things that I'm involved in the Drupal community space in general. One thing that I'm still strongly, sort of promoting here in the Drupal space is my digital career sandbox. Basically, I do weekly job search stand-ups, so feel free to follow that link here. I'll go ahead and post it in the channel to the LinkedIn. And you can also go to digitalcareersandbox.com and find all my information there. Though I would say, that I just do the weekly stand-ups here right now on Mondays, and feel free to reach out if you'd like an invite to that. So we can help folks onto their next. As well, I am the lead organizer for MidCamp. Our MidCamp event here is in a couple weeks on May 12th to 14th in Chicago. We, as always, have collaborative mentorship-focused items. We're going to be doing a hackathon this year. We also have an unconference on the second day, sessions and training. If you'd like to get involved or hear more about it, please head over to mid.camp/Slack. And the schedule is up at this point, so take a look on midcamp.org as well. Just a quick highlight reel of what Midnight is all. All right. And last but not least, feel free to follow up with me. I'm Technora everywhere, technora.com. Technora is my Drupal.org username. But thank you so much for having me here today. I will go ahead and open it up for any other questions that folks might have. But at this point, I am done with my presentation.
Thanks so much, Nora. It was a great kickoff to camp.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions before we pop off? And thanks for all the resources and links, and that's really cool. I just joined the LinkedIn group. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, I'll go ahead and stop the recording now and we'll end the session. And thanks again. We'll see you at camp, everyone.
All right. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.